You all should have gotten the announcement sent out to email who's in your group. So those of you who have just come on, I suggested to everybody that while we're waiting for everybody else, if you've not yet shared your letters with the other people in your group, you might go do that now. The list of the people in each group was in the email that was sent from Blackboard. And then as long as you're in your ULR email, it should be really easy to add them. And if anybody needs any help with sharing, just let me know.
When we're trying to share the document, it asks for, like, it'll say editor, commenter, or something, and then viewer.
Right.
Like, which one are we supposed to set it on?
You can do it edit or comment.
Okay.
If you just say view, then they can only view it. They can't comment on it. They can't do anything with it. So editor actually can go in and change the text. The commenter just adds comments. And it just kind of depends on how you prefer to work. How much control you want to have over your own documents. Okay, most people are here, so I guess it's a good time to start. It's weird. What we're going to do today is we're going to have group conferences, peer review. The goal of the conferences is to get as much helpful information as you can from each other so that you can work on rewriting or continuing to draft and continuing to write and rewrite your letters. Next week, we'll have individual conferences one-on-one, and I hope by that time you've done some revision and we'll talk some more about what you need to do. And then finally on October 6th, you'll turn in a version for grading, and that will be through Blackboard. Up until that point, we'll stay working on Google Docs because that's such a good format to give comments and feedback and also keep revising. We'll be able to just kind of keep with it. The other thing that's valuable about Google Docs is that it's up in the cloud, so it doesn't matter what particular hard drive or computer you're working on. You can even work on a Google Doc on your phone. All you have to do is download the Google Drive app to your phone. So not that I recommend a whole lot of writing on your phone because you don't have enough space to see what you're doing. But if you have to, then you have access to it wherever you are. And I know even in a restricted movement time like now, we all have multiple different places with not always attached to whatever computer we're working with. Do you have any questions in general before I get started a little bit about talking about the peer review? Okay.
Ms. Mattson?
Yes.
This is Veronica. You did have me checked in for today, right? Okay.
Yes. Yes, I see you.
Okay, that's all.
Yeah, sure. Okay. So the next page in the course site talks about peer review. Can everybody see week 6? That's showing? Okay, good. And it talks a little bit about the general purposes of peer review, and also has a variety of resources there. I want to talk a little bit about some of these resources. We're going to be using a system developed by, I guess it's a company called Eli Review. It's actually a faculty at, I think, a Michigan or Wisconsin university. They developed this whole Eli review system, and it is actually a thing that you can subscribe to, and there's actually interactive stuff that you can do. We're not subscribing to it. We're just using their free resources about peer review because I think it's extremely useful. They talk about what's called the describe, evaluate, suggest model. And we're going to watch a teeny little video for a second about that. But it's a very useful model for talking about, for just giving you a framework for talking during peer review. What kinds of things you say and comment on paper when you're giving some kind of peer review. So we're going to watch this little video. Well, first, actually, it's based on the criteria. No, let's start with a tutorial. All right. Right. First, can you hear the video? You could hear him? A little bit.
I cannot.
This is probably the loudest I can make it. So let me just stop. Is it loud enough for you to hear?
I cannot hear it.
You cannot hear it. Maybe I need to change the audio temporarily. To, I think it's,
I often joke that it's also.
Is that better?
Yes.
Okay.
Better.
So I shifted it from my camera to the computer itself. So I'll start over.
Describe, evaluate, suggest. I guess that's my go-to heuristic for teaching quality feedback. And I often joke that it's also what makes all relationships successful. If you do this when you're talking with the person that you live with, whether it's your roommate or your partner, your life will be a lot better if you don't jump right to that evaluative moment, that you linger for a moment to describe what you see or describe what you hear. So good feedback begins by providing the person you're giving feedback to with a reality check to say, okay, here's what I'm seeing. As a writer, that's the first thing I want to know. did I convey what I was trying to convey? I was trying to sketch this image of the Grand Canyon the first time I saw it. Did I convey the emotional heft that I felt when I was standing at the Grand Canyon? That's prior to making a judgment where you say, that's great, or that's not so good. Then when it comes to that evaluative moment, that's the second step. Describe first, evaluate the second, and to set that up, establish first what you agree on before you go ahead and make the judgment, and that is the criteria that you'll use. So there, if you imagine being in the car with your roommate, and you're determining where to go for dinner, that's always an easy decision. If you first establish some criteria, any judgment after that doesn't seem like a judgment of the person. It seems like a judgment of the thing that you're trying to improve or that you're trying to help them with. So don't say, ooh, I hate tacos. You would say, well, if a healthy choice is our objective, perhaps we should avoid tacos, those not being so healthy. And so already you've made your advice more palatable, regardless of the tacos. And then finally, the act that really, I think, helps feedback become maximally useful or helpful, as we like to call it in ELAC, really boosts your helpfulness rating, is offering advice, offering a way for the writer to make an improvement in what they're doing. You can offer advice even if what you see is good, even if you've rendered a value judgment that something is positive. The advice is, do that again. Or I see a way that you could do something similar over here. But of course, advice is always helpful when you find something not measuring up to the criteria. If you can offer a way to improve, to get closer to that goal, you'll be seen as not just simply sitting back and rendering judgment, but lending a hand. And that's what being helpful is all about. So we want to try to, when I teach feedback, that's the virtuous cycle, if you will, that I try to get people to adhere to. Describe what you see, share the criteria by which you would make a judgment, offer an evaluation, and then offer some helpful advice about how to make an improvement. And you'll be seen as a better person if you do that.
Let's see. Okay, well, let's just stop share for now. Okay, have any of you heard things like that before?
I mean, I've heard the repeat it back first part before.
Yeah.
The rest is pretty useful to me, I think.
Okay. So let me go back to the shoot. So he talks about using the criteria to make your comments. And so you need the criteria. And so I provided you the criteria in this document. I got this from, it's in the assignment itself. I also have it in the website. So these are the criteria. There are 5 criteria. Deadlines you don't have to worry about. The main ones are the first 3. And so it clearly identifies the purpose, including any specific action requested from the audience. Rhetorical fluency, organization and content, the conventions that has to do with grammar. And then the fourth one has to do with the formats and also any technology things. So those are the criteria that I'm asking you to work with this assignment as you describe and evaluate. Here is an example of comments that are written using this describe, evaluate, suggest model. And this was done from this class, so it's relevant specifically. I see you've provided the content of a letter starting with Dear X. So that's an example of describing. One of the criteria for the assignment is to follow a letter format. And I don't see all the components for the letter format. There's an evaluation assignment, or a part of it. And then the third thing is to do a suggest. I would suggest adding the other components for letters that were discussed in the reading, including an inside dress, a date, a closing, etc. So that was a pretty easy one. And it looks like about 5 or 6 of you, somebody should comment on exactly those things because they're not yet using a format for a letter. Here's another example. This letter starts with a really complete and clear description of the problem. So it's the description of based on one of the criteria. One of the criteria for the assignment is to make sure the purposes are clear and the reader knows exactly what they're supposed to do next. Right now, putting myself in the shoes of the intended reader, I don't really know what to do next. So I'm evaluating according to the criteria. So perhaps your final paragraph could identify exactly what the reader is supposed to do. Maybe you could even put those actions in a list to bring emphasis to them. Now, I'm putting these, it sort of sounds stilted and overly formalized. Sort of sounds stilted and overly formalized, but it sometimes helps to follow this pattern, you know, kind of rigidly until it gets really comfortable. And as the more and more you do it, the more comfortable it'll be and the more natural it'll sound and less like this, you know, kind of 1, 2, 3 kind of thing. Since we have the chance to actually do peer conferences in person, you can do this same thing talking to each other. And you can also do it in the comments. And so what I'm asking you to do is to read the letters, make comments based on the describe, evaluate, suggest model using the criteria. And you can do that in person. If you run out of time or if you just think about it more, you can go later on, you can add comments to it. The website has instructions about how to add comments, but I can also show you how to do that as well, or help you while you're in your groups. Now, one of the things that's actually on the website, and that I'll talk a little bit about at the end, is that after the conference, after you get feedback, I want you to sit down and come up with a plan for revising. This is because a lot of times we get really good feedback in you know, a conference or in a comments on a written draft, and then, you know, we go through our daily life and we kind of forget about it, and then we come back to the letter and we don't really, or whatever assignment, we don't really remember what we had decided to do as a result. So while you're in the conference, I want you to jot down notes or however you like to keep track of things. And I want you to, because you're going to be asked to write like a revision plan for after the process. Does everybody understand?
Yes, ma'am.
Yes. Okay, so I have created breakout rooms according to the list. Will you please, if you haven't yet, shared your documents to the other people in your group? All you need to do is click on that blue box, share, and type in their name, and it should pop up with a UALR email. They'll get an email notification, and they'll open it up. And if anybody has any problems, let me know. You know that when you're in the breakout rooms, I can go in and interact with you as well. I am pretty sure I've set the settings so that you can share documents within the breakout room. You don't necessarily need to do that as long as you're sharing it as a Google Doc. You can just kind of decide what is helpful for you. What I suggest you do is, the first thing you do is you all open up the criteria. Make sure you've got the criteria that I just showed you up on your screen, so you're kind of aware of what it is that you're really looking for. And then open up your own document in the Google Doc. And as you get the 2 or 3 other ones, open those up as well. Read everybody's, and then start with one person, and spend 5-10 minutes on that person talking about the particular criteria, whether they, describing and evaluating and suggesting, and then go around to the other people. While you're doing that, you can do it with comments as well. And if you need help with that, I'll let you know. Okay? So I'm going to open all the rooms. You should get an invitation. Okay, does anybody have any questions, just in general, about the process? Was that somewhat helpful?
Yeah,
Yes.
it's
I think it was helpful. I think it was helpful to go over, especially we had the grading criteria pulled up, so so it was really helpful to go over it just to figure out what we should add or take off.
Good. Okay, so let me share to the website again. All right, so where it says to read and watch, we did 1 and 2. What I'd like you to do afterwards is watch this short video about revision, and also watch this tutorial on revision. These are really good. I think they're kind of particularly kind of motivating about revising, and about just school stuff in general. You can continue to provide feedback to your group using Google Comments, and I gave some instructions. I'd gone over that before, and I saw some of you were doing that as well. What I want you to do is to write a revision plan for the letters. So right now, before you forget, I want you to jot down what the main things are that you're going to be working on, and just add it to the last page of the document. Remember, you can just add a new page to something by under File. No, I'm sorry. Under Insert, you insert a break, and then page break is one of the options. So that's what you do both between the two letters and also for the final page to add your comments about what your revision plan is. And then share a revised version with me before the conference next week. Now, I have sent out a doodle poll to find out times. I saw a couple of you already answered it. I have times set between on Tuesday, Wednesday, and Thursday of next week. And if you cannot find a time, let me know, and I will add another time that will work for you. The conferences are set for 30 minutes with a 15-minute break in between. So hopefully that should work pretty well. They will be on Zoom as well, and I'll send you out an invitation. I think I'll be sending individual invitations to each person so we can record each one individually, because that way you can have a record of what we talk about in case you weren't paying as much attention as you should have.
And is these separate Zoom meetings, are they just about the letters, or
Yes.
are they? Oh, okay.
Well, we can talk about other things as well, but between now and the time you've scheduled, you should rewrite your letter as well as you can based on the feedback that you received. And then, and we'll talk about how it is at that point. And, you know, maybe they'll be revised so well, I'll say, this is perfect, just submit to grade. Or maybe I'll have some suggestions. Probably I'll have some suggestions, but.
And just to make things clear, so we have the draft now. Do we need to create a whole new Google Doc for the revised and edited one?
No, just keep working on the same draft. And just so that you just have the one document. Remember, I think I've shown you how you can go back and look at previous versions of things you know, if you decide you edited something that you want to unedit, you can always go and look into the past. But so this one document should be the one that you're working on. And just, it really is a lot easier if you only have that one and you keep track of, and you know, because it's just a lot easier to keep track of. You know, the model of multiple drafts, you know, draft 1, draft 2, draft 3, which is what we often do with teaching. I mean, we kind of have to. It really isn't the way people write. People don't usually, nowadays, because of technology, you're constantly writing and rewriting and tinkering, and you can keep tinkering forever. You can totally get rid of stuff forever. So the Google Docs application really allows you to do it that way. Was there any technology issues that people had? So everybody is beginning to get the Google Doc thing, even if you've never done it before. Good. Okay, are there any other questions? Am I still sharing? No, I'm not. Okay.
Yes, you are.
I am still sharing?
Yes, ma'am, you are still sharing.
Can't find
Yes,
the
ma'am.
stop share. Oh, there it is. Okay, there we are. By the way, people said that, if I'm sharing something, you can't always see the boxes. Just, you can make the boxes smaller and make the sharing item bigger or vice versa. So
Are you talking about like the box where you can see people? I was just trying to figure that out. I was like, because all I could see was your screen. I couldn't see like everybody else. So that's
Yeah.
good to know. Interesting.
Sometimes it hides away. But. Questions? Okay. Have a great weekend.
Thank you, Dr. Matty.